We have here, closest to the camera, a 68 custom Vibro-Champ that came in with a bad speaker. The Celestion 1030 died. They die a lot in these Vibro-Champs. They die a lot in the 68 custom Princetons. It's just not a very good speaker. It has a warehouse G10C, which is basically their version of a mid-60s Jensen C10N, which is a fantastic speaker. Next up in the brown, we've got a 65 Reissue Deluxe Reverb. It also had a bad speaker. The stock C12K was bad, was breaking up terribly. This one has got a warehouse ET65, which is their version of the mid-60s Celestion G12M65. And on the right, the first one you're going to hear in blue is the 68 custom Deluxe Reverb that I have destupidified. See the previous video. And the left channel is now Super Reverb. The right channel now has a mid spot on the back that lets it get the Deluxe Reverb sound, as well as the sounds of, say, a Twin, which has more mid scoop. Has reverb and trim on both channels on this amp, unlike the 65. And this blue one has the Celestion G12M65 Creamback. It and the ET65 are very similar speakers, so let's listen to them. We're going to start with the blue 68. We're going to start on the reverb channel. On all the amps, we're going to start each channel with the volume on 5, treble and bass at 5.5, noon. Reverb on 3. We're not going to get into the tremolo on this. So here is a Strat with Kinman single coils, his traditional 50 set. And I'm going to talk a lot less and just play. So all those changes you just heard now were just by adjusting the mid spot on the back. So from 7 o'clock to noon, you get the traditional range of a Fender Twin Reverbs mid pot or the right channel on a Super Reverb. Above noon, you get into more mid-rangey stuff, eventually boost. Very nice, very versatile to have. Now let's do the normal channel, which is now the normal channel of a AB763 Super Reverb, with the fixed mids as if it were the vibrato channel of a Super Reverb with the mids on 5. play that same thing through the other channel, you hear the super reverb channel versus the more 20 sound. The difference is mostly that the super reverb channel's got a lot more lower mid information happening. It's a great sound. Now let me move the mic, and we're going to try the Brown 65 Deluxe Reverb with the ET65 and an otherwise stock amp. All right, we're going to start with the normal channel on this amp. Same settings as the normal channel on the blue one, but this is the stock Deluxe Reverb normal channel without reverb or tremolo. Let's go to the reverb channel on that amp, the vibrato channel. I have some thoughts on the stock Deluxe Reverb. Let me pick up the pick that I just dropped and I'll tell you what those thoughts are. I think an awful lot of players form an opinion about the sound of the stock 65 Deluxe Reverb reissue, which is not that positive, and they're really mostly judging the speaker that comes in it more than the amp itself. This is pretty much the stock amp here going through a good speaker. This is an ET65. There are a lot of good speakers out there that will make you happy. Alessandro has a great one that Eminence makes. I like the ET65, I like the G12C. Hell, a Vintage 30 can sound great. A Blue can be phenomenal. There's a world of great sounding speakers out there, but these things ship with Jensen C12Ks, or they ship with the early 90s made for Fender by Eminence thing, both of which just are turds. You can't polish them. You change out the speaker, your impression of the amp changes. Does it sound as good as a real one? Not quite. Does it sound as good as a 68 that I modded? No, but it sounds incredibly better, and I would happily gig with this today. And all of have done in this case, really, besides set up the bias and do some stuff on the heater wires, is change the speaker to something which is not fighting against music. So if you have formed your opinion of the 65 Reissue Deluxe Reverb already, make sure you've heard it through real speakers, because the amp deserves better than what Fender gave it. And I think on the market, especially used, maybe not now with the used market being so crazy, but traditionally you can get these things between $500 and $800 used, and it's a heck of a good amp. It's a great deal. If you can't make music with one of these, it's not the amp. That said, changing the speaker is crucial. Now let's hear this little Vibro-Champ with its WGS G10C. Now I'm starting off with the same tone control settings as the others, but I'll probably end up turning up the bass just to compensate for the relatively low end response of the small cab. So that's a nice sound. It's never going to have as much low end through that cabinet as its big brothers there. Now that speaker, the G10C, is capable of lows, but a speaker needs help from the cabinet. It's just physics, and that little 1x10 cabinet with very small dimensions cannot develop the frequencies itself. It's almost like having, not as bad as having the speaker just, suspended in air, but it's not a lot better than that. The reverb in this is digital, and I don't think it sounds very good. Let me turn it up a little bit more. You can hear it. Judge for yourself. I'm not a fan of this 68 Vibro-Champ. Doesn't sound as good as a real one. Her real one is much sweeter sounding. I could fix this, but how much money do you want to put into one of these little things? We've already put in a new speaker. The digital reverb doesn't work very well, as far as I'm concerned. Doesn't sound very good. There's so many pedals that sound better than this, and the amp has low enough gain. You could happily use one of the better reverb pedals in front of this, even just like a little TC Hall of Fame for 75 bucks. So the amp doesn't sound very sweet. The digital reverb, to me, sounds grainy and artificial, like a whole bunch of delays jammed together rather than what we perceive as a reverb tank, a spring reverb. And I have very strong concerns about the longevity of this part's availability from Fender. So if you have one of these and the reverb goes out, can you get that little board from Fender 5-10 years down the road? They have a poor track record of that, and I have not looked at the amp very much because it's hard to justify the time on something that costs this little to the owner. I don't want to charge them to do a bunch of stuff, but I have serious concerns that how are they doing the DSP mixing? Does the dry signal go through the DSP card? Does that card need to be there for the amp to make sound? Fender has dropped the ball in that regard with things like the Champ XD in the past. So we'll see how they do, but I find that Fender treats their lowest price customers, what they would consider their bottom tier customers, fairly poorly. I would rather have I frankly would just rather, in this price range, go for the Boss Katana. It's not tube, but it sounds good. It's really versatile. It's lightweight. It's much louder. You can get a lot better sound than out of this thing. That said, I got a good price on this speaker, so the owner's not out a lot on this. It's a worthwhile upgrade, considering that with the stock speaker, the amp was not usable at all. That's called I Try to Remember How a Song Goes. Anyway, that's it for the Vibro-Champ. It makes sound. It makes better sound than it ever has before. The jury's out on how long this particular model will make sound. I'm on the owner's side here. I hope it's a really long time. We'll find out.